For years, League of Legends players have lovingly taunted the developer Riot Games that the company should remove the S from its name until it releases another game. And of course, in those years since that joke first sprung up, Riot has released things like Mechs vs Minions, a board game, Teamfight Tactics, an auto battler, and soon League of Runeterra, a card game. But each of these has been set in League of Legends universe, and that's not really what fans have meant. What they've been looking for is something like Valorant, a team-based tactical shooter on the scale of League of Legends, and the first Riot game since League of Legends to take place in an entirely new universe. But while Riot will soon be publicly earning the S in its name, the truth is that it's actually been there for a lot longer than players might think. The studio just didn't tell anyone. A recent visit to Riot's Los Angeles headquarters has revealed exactly how long Valorant has been in development, and we're going to go through every step of the way from where it has begun 6 years ago. So let's go through the beginning of Valorant's development. So Valorant's development goes back as far as just over 6 years, and that's the earliest time frame something among conversations has been going around. And back then the game was only a small demo with Riot's R&D division. Whilst none of the developers can give exact dates for when they started work on Valorant, one thing that's clear is who was there at the beginning. Multiple people describe Joe Ziegler as an employee number 1 on Valorant, and in fact, that's not too different from how he describes himself. This is what he has to say. Valorant started from a very few angles at the same time, says Ziegler. Now the game's director. One angle was, I was chatting with a couple of other designers, one of them Trevor Romlinski, and we were just theorizing on what other kinds of games Riot could possibly make. The tactical shooter is a crowd-fielded game like Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Rainbow Six Siege, attracting thousands of players a day. But according to Ziegler, Riot was confident that its ability to balance, update and evolve games was something no other competitor in the genre could match. We're here at a really good service start, like Champions of League of Legends, Ziegler says, and we're like, what if we took a model like that and we thought, how could we take these games that normally have a really closed legacy loop, like Counter-Strike, and turn it into a service, into something that could continuously add to, where people don't hate it if you add a new gun or character. Now, few games have proven as elastic as League of Legends, Riot's signature multiplayer online battle arena title, and it's been around for over a decade. And the company still updates it every 1 to 2 weeks, adds new champions, refreshes old ones, and overhauls critical game systems. 6 years ago, the studio completely reworked the game's visuals. Throughout all these changes, League has remained one of the most popular video games in the world. One of the major ways that the team planned to create these kinds of changes for Valorant was through agents. Characters that play and select at the beginning of each match have unique abilities. While Valorant is still just as much about twitch, aiming and precision as games like Counter-Strike, agents supply a new wrinkle to that formula, a ready-made ingredient that Riot could continually add to keep it fresh. One of the most important parts of keeping any tactical shooter competitive is its map design. About a year and a half ago, Romlinski and Ziegler started working on Valorant. Riot sets out to find someone with experience designing maps in competitive shooters, and that's where Salvatore Girozo enters the story. Girozo is a former professional Counter-Strike player, and after his first time competing, he started designing maps for the game. In fact, he's the one who designed Cash, a map that still remains a fan favourite and a frequent feature of the Counter-Strike Global Offensive competitive scene. When Riot first reached out to him, he was understandably confused. I remember being surprised, Girozo said, because I was interested in Riot because of League of Legends for sure, but I didn't know they were working on a shooter. It wasn't initially on my radar for an FPS game. After a few conversations, it became clear why Riot was looking into this direction, and he took an interview to join Valorant team. I interviewed and actually got to play the game, and I was just convinced I could see the potential and I wanted to be a part of it. Now let's take a look at solving the technical problems with current shooters that Valorant really takes on head first. Early on, when Valorant teams were still small, it identified one of the core problems with other PC shooters: cheating. The core group of people who formed the project all have competitive backgrounds, and they were like, what kind of things do we need that we aren't getting now, says Chamberlain, a senior software engineer and head of Valorant's anti-cheating efforts. It wasn't that any game in particular was awful, it just seemed that every single game had, at some point or another, the experience of a really negatively impact game by cheating. How did they tackle this? Also, this is where they introduced the anti-cheat system, also hated by the community currently, called Valorant Vanguard. And that is how they decided the path was to take on the cheating element in their brand new competitive shooter Valorant. But what about the style of the game? Because presentation is everything when you are creating something new, and the gameplay style in particular has to remain close to an FPS game. Gameplay and technology have always been Riot's primary focuses for Valorant. The earliest members of the team weren't especially worried about fitting into a specific world or setting. They just made the best game they could, with characters, abilities, and maps that had little thematic or narrative correction. But it takes more than just that to ship a game. To help move Valorant from a fun, playable game to a finished product that Riot could show to the world, the team brought in Anna Dolan. My skill set is more towards taking the game where we think we have the right core game loop, and to figure out what exactly we need to do during the launch, and how to grow its player base. Now, Dolan is a veteran game video producer with plenty of experience making shooters. She was the producer of 2 Call of Duty games. This process is no surprise for her. She first joined Riot 5 years ago and worked on League of Legends, when she was the lead producer of the game's cosmetic content. A few years later, she brought into Valorant a new goal of polishing the workload, the work in progress into the game to make it a publicly playable asset. Each of Valorant's characters has a unique look, both for style reasons and to keep them all easily identifiable from a game perspective. But what really stands out in every character is the game looks something like you might want to play as, not just for a round, but an entire game. One of the final pieces of the larger Valorant puzzle. Valorant has been in the works for a total of 6 years, and honestly, there's so much potential that the game has. Currently, everyone is looking towards the esports direction, with a massive ESPN esports event coming up very shortly. The world is the oyster, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to make some serious money and join some professional teams from this game. But while Valorant may not actually be Riot's second game, it's certainly the most ambitious project that the company has attempted since League of Legends. In many ways, Riot seems to be trying to release Valorant as a game that's comparable to what League of Legends took a decade to grow into. Now, while most people compare it to a crossover between Counter-Strike and Overwatch, if we all really take a look at the mechanics of the game and the visuals of the game, not only that, but the lore and the updates and the passion that's going to be put into it, I think we can safely say that Valorant is a standalone success that is going to stand the test of time, and I look forward to seeing what updates they have to bring in store. I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. It has been your boy Bitter. Much love, everyone, and peace.